queria ajudar-vos para puxar o mês para adiante. Para não preocupar com vir exitoso lo antes possível, senão para focus arriba a vir melhor tiki cada dia. E éxito lo vem desse mês. Selfmaking tem mentalidade onde o abo te reconhecer que o processo de crescer e vai adiante nunca te acaba. Arriba self-making, todo tipo de gente também e contra a história. História não que por ajudar a abo vir uma melhor versão de você. Para sobre toda gente tem uma história para contar. Toda gente por si nos algo. E toda gente é self-making. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We've been on vacation, although we don't really take vacations here because it's been about 3 or 4 days and we're already recording. So that's why probably the set hasn't changed at all by when you're seeing this. Probably by the projects we have coming soon as well. Self-making, schooled by the greats. I still have to decide on which I'll stream this episode. Maybe both, probably both. So I won't even give this episode a number. Just take it as a special edition and a gift of me and my guest to you. But without further delaying this, I'd like to introduce my guest, Edward Cheung. Edward, welcome
Hello.
On the episode. Sorry, I'm a bit too far.
Yep, thank you for the invite. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for accepting it. I was really excited because at first we didn't know 100% if we were going to be able to make it. For those that after hearing the introduction, still if you would like to add anything else, this is your moment to introduce yourself to the Arubans that are watching this.
I have been away from the island since Carnival of 2019. And due to many reasons that we all know about. And finally got vaccinated. And
Here in Aruba?
No, not in Aruba. No.
Okay.
So my mom still lives here. I'm from here, was born here, raised here, went to school here. All my siblings have left, but mom still lives here with a circle of friends and family around her. So she's the center of the family, of course. We've been staying away from her, taking care of her remotely. But now that we got vaccinated and she got vaccinated, of course, all of a sudden the skies cleared.
Yeah.
And we could visit her for her birthday. And so her 83rd birthday was yesterday.
Congratulations still.
Thank you, thank you. We're proud of her. She's doing great. Still can drive. Lives with a housekeeper. Dad has passed away. Anyway, so yeah, all that happened and we booked our ticket, came down. It's been nice. I've done some meet and greets with school kids this week. Something I really like to do.
Do you always do that when you come visit?
Irregularly. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But this time, since I was away for so long, and I get these requests very frequent to meet, and I'm saying, I'm not on the island. I can't come. Just please check Facebook whenever I come next, and we'll talk. And so this time when it opened up and we were staying at a hotel and I have the lobby available as a meeting space, I said, hey, let's do meetings. And frankly, I've been inundated with requests. I was surprised. I can book 4 times the number of visits, and everyone has been great. I really enjoy them. So yeah, so that's why we're also talking today. I decided to accept your invite.
I really appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
So when I did some of the research, right, I read that what you were doing at NASA was that you were working on the Hubble Space Telescope, right? Can you explain a bit more about that?
Sure. Apart from the specialness of Hubble, which is it's in space, and we can talk about that later, about why it's in space, it was designed, built to be serviced, to be repaired. It and shuttle were designed hand in hand. And so, and it's the only vehicle satellite that has that feature. So it needs a crew on the ground to prepare new hardware, instruments, cameras, computers, batteries, whatever, everything. And of course, the crew that visits to do the change out, to do the actual work in space. And I'm part of the crew that builds hardware, builds the new hardware, or used to build hardware for Hubble. and provided this train of parts that would eventually get flown and installed and used right now on Hubble and used to do all our discoveries of the universe.
So you have a team that prepares the hardware here, and then some that fly out to space to do the repair and the maintenance and everything.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right. Of course, that used to be the case when Shuttle was still flying. Shuttle has been retired, as you know.
Yeah.
And so since 2009 was our last mission to visit Hubble. And since then it's been operating great on the backup systems that we have and still doing great science. But we did 5 missions to repair parts along the way, all these years. And that's why Hubble lasts 30 plus years, which is extremely unusual for a space mission.
But you said that Hubble and they were created hand in hand basically and designed to be like maintenance and service. Why is that?
There was a time after Apollo, imagine the Apollo days, NASA's going to the moon. Great. But then at some point, the moon becomes old. It becomes routine. So what do we do with space now that we've gone to the moon? What's next? Well, let's make space accessible. Let's not build a big rocket to go to space and use it once and it's done and go far away. Let's build a truck that can go into space often. Bring a big crew. Instead of 3 people, 6 or 7. And once you're in space, what are we going to do? Well, let's build a space station. So that's what we're going to do. Way back in the 70s, that was a big plan. Build shuttle, build a space station, and have a permanent occupation in space for humanity. Not just go, orbit, land, everyone's back on the ground, right? Everyone, every single one, all the heads counted. So instead, let's have a permanent station in space. And so that build-up went to shuttle. Shuttle at one point on the papers was supposed to launch twice a month.
That's a lot.
A lot. Twice a month. 2 shuttles a month. 2 weeks, boom, another shuttle. Because back then, everything was reusable. External tank was disposed of, but that was it. Everything else was reused. Main engines, shuttle, solid rocket boosters. You bring it down, you refurbish it, go again. Of course we can do it. We do it cheaper. That was the dream. That was the intent. After many years of using shuttle, we learned a lot. And so we've gone away from the shuttle way of doing things. But back then, they were saying, well, shuttle is going to have a huge cargo bay. This big open spot in the back, the size of a bus. Well, we need a space telescope. We need a telescope that's free from the effects of the atmosphere. The same effects that causes light from a star or a star to twinkle. It's because that beam is coming through the atmosphere, it's being steered by currents in the air, by atmospheric moisture, causing the light to move, wander, and twinkle.
That's why it blinks.
That's why it twinkles and blinks. Exactly. Stars don't do that. Our sun doesn't go blink, 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 right?
Yeah.
It's constant. And stars do that. They're constant, most of them. That blinking is a direct manifestation of the corruption, the distortion in the atmosphere. So to get rid of that, let's put the telescope in space and let's make it serviceable. Originally, Hubble was supposed to be brought back into the shuttle, land, fixed on the ground, flown again. And many initial drawings, you can tell that was the intent. But after a while, they realized, this is not going to work. Once we get it on the ground, we may not even get it back in the sky again.
Why is that?
Well, a couple of reasons. Launch and landings are very stressful on everything. They are just incredibly hard on hardware. Being in space is just a cakewalk compared to that. So those cycles would have been very punishing. And sometimes it's just not, you just don't know what happened, and you may not be able to launch the Space Telescope again. There was that uncertainty. So it was changed to an in-service in space model. And that's what we did. We went up, traveled with the shuttle. Shuttle was perfect because it had the big cargo bay to release Hubble, but also in the future to bring new instruments and cameras along in that same space. It had a long robot arm so that it could pick up the astronaut and bring it all over shuttle, all over Hubble as a transportation system.
Yeah.
It had an airlock. So 2 crewmen could get outside and the rest could stay inside. And the airlock takes a lot of space. So, yeah, all those aspects, multiple crews. You can have 2 go outside one day. Then the next day they rest. And then the other 2 go out. And then 2 are, the main ones that fly the vehicle. Crew of 6, a nice round number. You always have to have 2 guys outside because you never have one outside. If he runs into trouble, he needs a buddy.
Yeah.
Like you dive, right? Every diver knows that. So same thing. So that was a nice round number. And so, yeah, shuttle was built with all those numbers in mind. And on top of that, if you can fix Hubble, you can go and repair, assemble, build a space station. Great. As a matter of fact, NASA and Air Force, right? People think NASA launches everything. That's not true. Air Force and NASA launch things together because the Air Force launch spy satellites. We don't. And they want to have full control over their satellite. So the Air Force has its own space program. And that is NASA. Well, back then the government decided you guys are going to get together and everyone is going to use shuttle. Everyone. Air Force, NASA, everyone. We're going to have one combined system.
Got it.
And by that, they pool all the money together and build this expensive thing called shuttle. It looked great. But in reality, shuttle became a lot more complicated, and we couldn't sustain the 2 months, two launches a month. And so it became not as reliable as Air Force wanted. So Air Force went back to their own separate rocket system. And they've since maintained that. They still have their own rocket system.
And how often were these services? How often did they take place?
Every 3 years, we would visit Hubble. I don't remember the exact, but yeah, go back 2009, 3 years. And that was nice because when I joined Hubble, it was for the second mission. Now, when it was launched, you may not remember this because you're young.
Yeah.
There was a problem with the mirror.
All right. No, I don't recall.
Yeah, so with big fanfare, we launched the Hubble Space Telescope. Even back 30 years ago. We take the first picture, and it's not sharp. People forget that history. The picture was not sharp at all. It was all wavy. And NASA became a joke. We couldn't even do that. But it was also a difficult job because the main mirror of Hubble is 2.4 meters wide from edge to edge. And it was because of a mistake in the polishing process that we figured out what it was ground a little too flat by the thickness of a human hair.
Wow.
An object the size of this table, having a defect the thickness of a human hair, was noticeable in space because of the images it took. That's how tiny the error was.
That's how precise you have to be in your work then.
That's how precise you have to be.
That's crazy.
It was incredibly small, and it was a mistake in the system. And they taught us a lesson. It says, if you are doing something precise, don't use that same system to tell you how good or bad the job you're doing. Because if you rely on one person or one thing and it makes a mistake, you can't check it.
Yeah.
Right? There's no backup to it. That was a very expensive lesson we learned. We used the same system that ground and polish it to check it. And of course, it's going to look great.
Yeah.
So, but we found the error. We found the mistake in the hardware. And that's how we could analyze how bad the error was. So that was the launch 30 years ago. And immediately we decided we got to fix this thing. And it came to someone who was taking a shower. We're going to put contact lenses on Hubble, basically. The light from Hubble is focused into a small area. That big 2-meter beam becomes a very small area, and we were going to put a little contact lens right there to fix the light. And that's what we did when we first serviced the Hubble. On the first visit after releasing it, we put in the contact lenses and it fixed it. And we got rid of the distortion completely because we knew what the problem was.
How long does it take to detect a problem that was that small?
I don't know. I don't remember. I wasn't around, but they basically tore the system apart and found it.
Got it.
It was basically a chip. It was basically a rod that was a specific length that was our main calibration rod. It had a scratch on the end of it.
And that scratch was it?
The scratch was it. The laser would bounce off the scratch instead of the face and got the distance wrong.
Wow.
And because we found the scratch, we were like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is the reason. We could measure it. We could understand exactly the problem. And we knew now the contact lens prescription to use. So that happened on the first servicing mission. I wasn't part of that mission. I was part of the second servicing mission.
Yeah.
By then, Hubble had been a very rolling along success. And I wasn't really attracted to Hubble because it was successful. It was just, I needed a change. So I went to that. You know, my degree was in robotics. That's how I got into NASA. But, you know, there was a change. And so I joined Hubble. And the rest is history. We keep servicing Hubble. It was really neat because you were always working on a mission, but you always had your eye on the next mission. And you're saying, what would I want to do on the next one? And then you would join the team for the next mission. Kind of prepare yourself for the next job.
And while you were working on Hubble, what was on your mind for the next mission?
The next Hubble mission. There will always be subsequent mission, you know, the third mission.
And then
fourth.
something you would do different?
No, it would be we would know that we would need to build a new camera or a new computer.
Yeah,
Or
just to keep improving it and making it better.
That's right.
Got it. All right.
That's right. So you knew what was being built, and you could decide, okay, I'm going to join that team or whatever. You know, you could decide what you want to do.
Now, what would you say in all your years working at NASA was your biggest professional accomplishment?
Professional accomplishment.
Yeah. Because I have a follow-up to it, which is not professional, but let's start with this one.
Yeah, so professional accomplishment is the camera that is Hubble's workhorse today, Wide Field Camera 3. It was installed on the final mission. I worked on it 7 years, so overlapping with other missions. I was the electrical lead on that, so I had the full control over all the electrical systems and the testing and the design and all that. And we take 60 to 70% of our images with that camera today.
Wow.
So it's very valuable. Of all the 5 cameras on Hubble, this one camera takes up 60 to 70% of the images.
Which is the one you worked on?
This is one I worked on.
Wow.
WFC3,
Congratulations.
Wide Field Camera 3. Very proud of it. And yeah, it's and the team members still know each other. Whenever there's a observation done and it's in the press, we write each other. We say, hey, that's a WFC3 image. We feel proud we did it. WFC3 is 2 cameras in one. The color of the light is very important. We see color as, you know, it helps our lives, but the color of the light is how you do science. And WFC3 is able to see in the infrared and in the ultraviolet, that whole span. So beyond what we see with our eyes. And so it's a very valuable camera because of that panchromatic capability, as we say.
So if I ask you from the first day that you were hired at NASA up until today, what was your biggest personal accomplishment? Would it be the same as the professional one, or would it be something else?
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. It would be this device that's also on Hubble called the Aruba box. And it was a device that was, I had the main influence in building and designing. And it was a device that would be on the outside of Hubble. Many of the items go inside, behind doors. This goes on the outside. And I decided that this was a great opportunity for me to name this thing Aruba. And it took me a little while to figure out how to get that to happen because I needed an acronym that formed the letters A, R, U, B, A. I made it work.
How'd you make it work? What does it stand for?
It stands for the A.
Yeah.
Is itself an acronym. It stands for ASCS NCS. Long couple of letters, but it's the name of a cryogenic cooler.
Okay.
R stands for relay. U stands for unit. B stands for breaker. And A is assembly. Aruba. ASCS, NCS, relay, unit, breaker, assembly. And I proposed the name. My boss knew what I was up to, of course. He approved it. And so I did it to show that people in Aruba have a direct link to space. And it's when it was installed by the astronauts, they handled the box, they said the name Aruba in space. So an astronaut spoke the name Aruba, it was relayed around the Deep Space Network, more than once, twice. And yeah, I'm very proud of it personally. And
That's huge.
it's still sitting on Hubble, and there's still a name tag on it that says Aruba on it.
That's amazing. Now,
Yeah.
I told you a while ago that I've interviewed people from different industries here on the show.
Yeah.
Now, for all the young people my age and even younger that follow this show, right? They don't know what it's like to work on one project for 7 years in this case, or for such a long time. Can you describe a bit what it's like to dedicate such a long period to one project?
Well, let me describe it in a way that's a little bit dramatic.
Go ahead.
After working on the Waifu Camera 3 camera for 7 years, it was put on a shuttle that had a small chance of not making it into space. It passed that hurdle and went into space. Okay, that part done. Okay, I'm glad. So in space, since it's the most important thing we're going to do, so we did do 5 days of spacewalks. They're prioritized carefully. In case there's a problem in the shuttle, you're going to head home right away. You want to do the most important thing first.
What's that?
It was the installation of Waifu Camera 3, my camera.
Yeah.
Okay. On the very first day, we do it. Now, this camera was installed on the first servicing mission. So there was an original camera. Because of the blurriness, we had to replace it right away on the first mission, because to incorporate the contact lens. So back in, 27 years ago now, it was taken out, and WIFPIC 1 was put in there. So it was the original WIFPIC 1 was put in there. And it comes out with a single bolt. The astronaut threads the socket into this hole, untorques it, the whole thing comes out like a big drawer, like a kitchen drawer, and then the new one is put in. So come in 2009, they're about to take the old camera out that was installed in the first servicing mission, and they can't get it out. They are torquing it, it's frozen. The bolt is frozen. So we're all on the ground watching this. We're supporting them by feeding them information and telling them what to do. And we're holding our breath, especially me, because here's my camera. I've been working on this for so long. Finally, it's going to be installed, and we can't get the old one out. So finally, they decide, okay, we have to get it out. And see, we use a electric screwdriver, of course, that has a torque limit setting, so that it doesn't over torque the bolt.
Yeah.
And it's not able to turn the bolt at the highest torque setting. It won't turn the bolt. So we said, okay, forget about the electronic. We're going to just go with a big long bar in space, and we're just going to twist it. And it's designed to break safely. So if it breaks, we will never get the old camera out. But at least it will not be harmed. So now, by torquing it, there's one of two actions going to occur. Either the bolt is going to break in a safe manner, or we finally get the bolt out. So I'm there holding my breath, and finally the astronaut goes, and then he untorques it. He's able to break it loose, and we all breathe a huge sigh of relief. So what's it like? It is, it is lots of time spent dedicated to a goal. And in the case of Wi-Fi Camera 3, it's not just the installation of the new camera. We now have to wait until the first image comes back. Is it sharp? Is everything good? So that doesn't happen until the astronauts land. And then we have a special unveiling party just for the team.
Nice.
And I'm present, and our main principal investigator, the main scientist, comes up and shows the first image, and it's beautiful. So there it is. We are embargoed. We're not allowed to talk about this image publicly, but we know at least in the team that our mission is finally successful. That the camera we started working on years ago is finally done. It's finally, that's now working and out of college and finally doing its thing. So that was the whole arc of Wi-Fi 3.
It's an exciting story. Now, the part that interested me a lot as well is I read that you were born and raised in San Nicolas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to the same high school, which is Colegio Urbano, right? You and me. So after having the same education up until that point, right? What followed? Like, how does someone that was raised in an island so small, because Aruba has about just a bit over 100,000 people, right?
Yeah.
End up working at NASA? What was it after Colegio Urbano?
Actually, if I may, I want to go before then.
Before Colegio?
But before Colegio. And it's, I think, in the theme of your podcast, when I was a child, I was fascinated by electronics. It was a gift. That was the gift I had. I wasn't a particularly good student. I wasn't really intelligent or anything like that, but I had a really passion for electronics. It all happened because I saw a radio and the insides of it, and I realized that this little thing with things sticking out of this board was able to make me hear someone talking from far away. It was wizardry. It was magic. How is this even possible? And I really wanted to own this magic. I wanted to be part of this magic. So I've always been really curious about electronics. I bought a lot of electronics books, read them as a little kid. I was a good customer of the Radio Shack that was here in Aruba. I don't know if it's still here. It's only a few blocks. It used to be a few blocks away.
It used to be, yeah. I know where it used to be. I don't think it's there anymore, though.
So I was really a big customer. I had bought so many books and parts there. I would build all kinds of things, usually not have them work, but they were fun. They were just fun to make, and it really gave me a very good basis in terms of intuition. And even today, where I am at NASA is I no longer build hardware like the Wi-Fi Camera 3. I no longer am in charge of that. I'm really more of a firefighter now.
How so?
I am called in when there's an electrical problem, and I am asked to go fix it.
All right.
And that's mainly what I do. And quite often my intuition really helps me a lot. And I really believe that, as a side note, as growing up, you really need to listen to your intuition and make it your ally, because it can be your second person. I mean, two heads are better than one, right? So really listen to your little voice, listen to your intuition, and train it. Follow it, and if it's right, recognize it. If it's wrong, correct it. And I really quite often will come across a problem, a bit of data, and all of a sudden my intuition will say, wait a minute, there's something here. And that has really helped me a lot. But so fast forward to Colegio and beyond, I did a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, a master's degree, and then a PhD in robotics. And to answer your question, as part of the PhD as any PhD would be, you contribute something to the field.
Yeah.
You do research, you turn things around. You're initially a student for all these years, accepting and absorbing, but now you're the one that has to teach. You have to want to turn things around and contribute something. And I published some papers, I spoke at conferences, and NASA had a researcher at one of them, saw me there, back in Scottsdale, Arizona, 30 years ago, and offered me a job at the Kennedy Space Center for the summer. And it was opened my eyes. This kid from Aruba, out of college, without any work experience, and it was a wonderful summer at Kennedy Space Center. I was given lots of access to see hardware and things like that, and yeah, after that I was offered a job, a permanent one, and that's how I ended up there.
I suppose you barely had to think over your reply to the offer, right? Did you jump at the opportunity right away?
Oh yeah. The question was where. So I could stay in Florida at Kennedy Space Center, where we launch. Our launch center is there, of course. I could maybe do interplanetary work and go to JPL in California. And, I would have been on the Mars teams maybe. I could do space station work and go to Houston. But I decided I wanted to go to Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland because I wanted to really do that kind of work. I want to be able to build hardware for a mission, science mission, put it in space, see it, do its thing, fulfill its mission. And so that's where we are. We're based in Maryland now, just outside DC.
If I look at your academic career, right, what you studied, I wouldn't say obviously it was just that, but it was the passion and interest that you had as a kid, because this whole building radio phase that you had was before high school even, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing I want to give the message to kids now is that if you're young especially, tinker, If something breaks around the house, take it and take it apart. How does it work? What is all pieces all about? I used to save tons of boards. It was junk everywhere, but I love this stuff. And that helped me a lot. It still does.
One thing that I was thinking, since you're a person that's so academically decorated, right? So you studied a lot. A topic that I like to discuss with some of my guests is changes or ideas that could be implemented in the educational system, right? Being someone that's studied so long, would you think it would be beneficial if in the early stages of school, so before high school, students had like the free range to discover what it is that they're passionate about? To say that at school you were introduced to building and taking apart radios and such things, maybe you could have learned more at an earlier age, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah, we could have a day where a student brings a broken piece of hardware to school, and under a safe guidance of a teacher, they take it apart and look at it, maybe invite someone from an engineer to come over and explain some things, have competitions for designing things, building things.
Exactly.
Like Lego First and all those robotics contests that are so common. You can tap into that, and it doesn't take a whole lot of money to do because it's sometimes I think there's a little bit too much emphasis for touchscreens and computers. They are really cool looking, and I hope they are used well. But in the end, if it's sometimes it might be better to have something that the kids can play and break and fix, and than this nice looking tablet.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. When I was being brought up, it was just before the phase where all the video games started to get in, right? So, I mean, even my friends, though, they did start to play with the Back then it was Game Boy, GameCube, Nintendo 64, these things, but my parents never allowed me to own any piece of video game until I think I was either well above 12 or 13. Before that, it was more play outside, figure stuff out, right? So
Yeah.
my grandfather, who's also not with us anymore, but he used to tinker a lot. He used to have his garage, build machines. They used to have this pasticci factory back then. And he used to build his own machines.
Nice.
So all the machines in the factory. So he used to tinker. He
I
used
admire
to
that.
take cars, take them apart, then build them back up.
Yep.
So Popular Mechanics was like his favorite magazine that he was subscribed to.
Yep. Yep.
So it was something that I also grew up in. Maybe if things would have been different, I would have taken a liking and an interest towards that, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's definitely something interesting though, because I know that many kids, me included, as a kid, you just dream of what space is like, right? So people are so into everything that's going on in the world, but you forget that there's a whole, to say world or galaxy out there, right? And then I know as a kid, since you were so interested in machinery and technology, were you ever interested in space though, as a kid?
No. No. I think that's one thing I can bring to kids in Aruba. The realization that, yeah, there is that potential draw out there of a world that you can join where your interest in tinkering and learning on your own becomes something really cool and useful and current, you know. I never really knew where my electronics tinkering could lead. I never really looked that far.
Were you someone very ambitious growing up though?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I didn't have a real, frankly, a role model in this. I was really by myself in terms of, I didn't know any of my friends at school that was interested in this stuff, right? I remember having them over once and they were surprised because I never really talked about it, or it was never a conversation. We always talked about different things, you know, playing games or girls or you know, all kinds of things, music, but we never talked about technical things. And I was really kind of alone in that. So I think that, but I don't think that's true anymore. I mean, I'm seeing such a huge interest this week in space and engineering. I'm getting so many requests. I'm really happy about that. And that there's like an awakening from when I was growing up. I mean, I've offered up going to schools in the past, but I've never gotten this.
So this is the first time that you get so many.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
It's been, and also I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just been building up enough. You know, it's who knows how the Facebook algorithm works.
Yeah.
Right. Who knows what pops up in front of you, but I know there is one, and yeah, who knows? Maybe somehow I'm being promoted more, and people see my post more, and then there's more of a interest in my request for meeting. But in the past, I remember saying, "Hey, if you want to meet," basically crickets, not too much. But this time it's been different.
I saw one of your posts that it was maybe that you just said that you're going to be in Aruba, open to meetings, right? I read that same post and messaged you, and I saw that the post was well over even 400 interactions of people. So that's when I thought, okay, I'm gonna need a bit of luck to maybe land an interview for this. But
yeah, you were quick, and you were one of the first, and it worked out.
You got to be quick. Now, one question though: if you reach till the point where you even finish a PhD, right? And you said you didn't consider yourself very ambitious. Was it just the hunger for knowledge and you wanted to specialize in your field, or what was it that drove you that far into education?
That's a good question. No one's asked me, and
We try to be different here.
Yeah.
Because he just kept going. A lot of people, when they finish their bachelor's, right, they're like okay, finally I'm done with studying, done with papers, done with education.
You're right.
Then you went on to the master's, and then you went on to the PhD.
Yeah, there was a reason, and to be honest, I wanted to make myself more marketable. As I'm graduating with my bachelor's and my master's, I'm looking left and right and seeing a lot of people. Now, the context is, of course, I'm in college, and my peer is my age, my year, and so, of course, all my friends and everyone are graduating at the same time. But at least at the time, I was like, I don't stand a chance. So I'm not going to even interview. I'm just going to keep going. Just going to keep studying. And to be honest with you, I didn't really have a good plan, because I didn't know what the PhD was all about. Right? I thought, and that's why I make a stress in, like I said before, I thought you go to school, you take classes, you take tests, you get a mark, and eventually you get this piece of paper. Right? No, that's not the way it works. At some point, the courses just end, and you're on your own. Now, you find an advisor, and together, you develop a thesis, and you do your research. But I didn't know that was going to happen. I thought I was just going to keep going to school. Yeah, so that plan was not well thought out. It was more of I got too much competition here, I'm just going to keep going, and eventually I'm going to be rising up above some level, and I'll be, good enough that people will hire me. So that was the motivation.
Well, it's safe to say you even surpassed that point.
Well, maybe.
It's really cool and funny that you would say that. So how you described that when you finished your bachelor's, but that is exactly what drove me to where I am right now and where I'm gonna go. Because when I was sitting, I think it was my second year at the university, so still 2 more years to go. I just looked left and right, and I was like, okay, we're all taking the same classes. We're all taking the same notes. I wasn't a great student, so they're taking more and better notes than me, even and scoring higher. So once we all graduate, we all have our diplomas, we're all going to ask for jobs. Why would an employer pick me over the rest? Especially if I didn't have the highest grades, right?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Plus, if we all learn the same things in class, that's not really going to make me more distinguished than the rest, right? So what can I do? What can I start doing on the side? Because I can't say, let me just fast forward 2 years and then I'll just do a master's. What can I do now to start standing out from the people next to me? So I was a person, I really did not like reading. So I know in colegio you had to read books.
Right.
I did not. I got away with
looking
at summaries.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you too. Did you read them, or did you also look up some summaries back
No,
then?
I read them.
Oh, you read them.
I read them, but I was organized. I was like, okay, I need to do 40 books by the time I graduate. I've got to do one a month. And then I would write Excels of each one, and I saved them. Funny story there. I found out later that my cousins found my Excels.
And they just used that.
And they used that.
Smart.
But I was like, okay, I know what I got to do. I don't like reading novels. I don't like nonfiction. And since then, I've stopped reading nonfiction, to be honest with you, right? I'm like you. I read self-help, but not nonfiction. Not fiction, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I had to grind through all that fiction and get through it like everyone else.
So that's what I discovered of so let's say probably around 40 books that you had to read, right? In colegio, I managed to finish one.
Oh.
Out of the 40. Even this book that they told me, it's very thin, it's easy to get through, called Animal Farm by George Orwell.
Oh yeah, classical one?
I did not finish that one.
Okay.
It was very thin. And I was going through it, the experience was easy, but I was like, and I was missing, I think it was less than 10 pages, say 6. I was 6 pages away from finishing my first book at the time. I was like, I just don't feel like it.
Yeah.
So I put it down. I didn't finish the book. There was another book, not famous at all. I still remember the title of The Reluctant Fundamentalist is one of the novels that we had to read. That is the one and only book that I finished. For some reason, since I did not enjoy novels whatsoever, I would prefer to spend hours searching for different summaries of a book study 5 or 6 different summaries and present that
I see.
than to read a novel from cover to cover.
Right, right.
So I preferred that suffering, that little suffering, over reading the book.
Yeah.
And then later on, I started to discover so many things in school I did not enjoy. I would prefer take the long road than just taking the main road that everyone's supposed to take.
Yeah.
But then I discovered in other topics, in other areas, I could read for hours, watch videos for hours just because they interested me. Not just because it was entertainment. So I only read, self-help in this case. But again, so I discovered, hey, if I want to read a novel, I'll just watch a movie.
Yeah.
But if I want to learn something, I'll read a book, because now I just associated reading with learning.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, so I started, I remember I bought my first book. It's probably around here. Here you go. The first self-help book I ever read
Okay.
was that one, because I said, when I finish, I want to go into sales. Why? Because sales, when you go into sales, you get over a fear of rejection, because you're going to get more no's than you're going to get yeses. You're going to learn people skills. You're going to be better in communication. And being good in communication is a skill that would be useful almost everywhere. So that's why I said, once I finish university, I want to go into sales. So then I said, how many people in this classroom have better speaking skills than me, better socializing skills than me? I was a shy person. I was an introvert when I was a kid. So I said...
And you're now a talk show host.
Yeah. So that's the funny thing. I just forced myself to do all the things that I felt most uncomfortable doing, so I could get over them. So one day, wherever I land, I'm not uncomfortable anymore. That was the idea. And then
I'm like that too.
Really?
I was very bad at speaking. Very bad. I remember once, well, it was terrible, that particular. And if you look at me now, I do a lot of public speaking. I got over it. And it's a trick I do on myself.
What's that?
And the trick is, I'm in front of a very large audience, let's say, hundreds of people, or will be, and I tell myself, look, here you are, standing in front of all of them, with the bright lights on you. Any one of these people here, hundreds of them, they will not be able to want to swap places with you. No. Well, you're going to stand up here and you're going to show them that you can do it.
That's a great tip.
And it emboldened me. It was like, here I am, And I would talk to the guy in the back, loud, strong. I would be looking at him and talking to him. And gradually, I got better. And yeah, now I'm okay with it, because I remember that trick.
What I realized that made me feel more comfortable is when I was speaking in general in front of the classroom, right, wherever it may be, if I felt that I wasn't very knowledgeable in the topic that I was speaking on, my speaking would be way, way worse than if it's a topic that I feel comfortable in, right? Because I just think, okay, let's say I'm presenting to so many college students, right, or little kids, but there's that one old person sitting in the crowd that maybe is a specialist in this topic. Yeah, and he's on me, and he's probably like, this is not correct, but I'll just let him keep going. So I was like, if I'm going to present, I just need to feel that I know enough of what I'm going to talk about, so I can feel comfortable and that I can flow. So that's where like so many books came in, because I'm like, I want to get better, or I want to know more of what I would talk about.
Yeah.
And that's also why this show, I will always be in the point of view and the perspective of a student, right? I'm always learning from the person that I'm bringing on the show. And I'm just sharing that learning experience with everyone that's watching. But that is what really got me into this this drive. I just wanted to stand out from the rest.
Yeah.
Because if we all have the same education, what's making you different,
Yep. I want to tell you another story that you reminded me of.
What's that? Go ahead.
So I gave a TED Talk in Aruba once. And the night before the TED Talk at Casa Cultura is the rehearsal. The room is empty. It's rehearsal. There's like 2 people in the audience. I get out there, my talk, and I do terrible. It was terrible. I started to sweat. I got really stressed. And I said to myself, oh my God, what's happening here? I just lost it. So I went home to my mom's house, and I analyzed my talk, and I said, I've only been practicing my talk silently. I haven't been doing my talk out loud. And that was important to me. So that night, I did the talk out loud 2 or 3 times.
At home?
At home, in front of a mirror, just like the classical thing, and it worked. The next day, I was confident. I spoke into the light. You don't see the crowd because the light's so strong, you know how it is.
Yeah.
So I didn't see the crowd just like the previous day, but somehow I felt more at ease. So that's not a trick. If you have a very important speech, at least I would advise you, take the effort to say it out loud. Don't just take a piece of paper, done. You're tempted to do that. I got the speech. You got to say it out loud. Because in a way, you're echoing it into your ears, and your ears are checking you somehow.
Yeah.
And if it's the first time, like that intuition thing again, it's going to be like, am I really sure of what I'm saying? So yeah, that's
a great tip. That's something I didn't used to do. Again, I was like you at first, where you just go over it, you read it so many times, you're like, okay, it's supposed to be in my head when I say it, so it's in my head now, I'll be fine. And then once you start speaking, just something doesn't sound right,
Exactly.
And then you start second guessing yourself.
Yep.
And then you start thinking, if I'm second guessing myself, this crowd must be too, or someone in the crowd.
Yeah.
I get it. That's how it goes.
Yeah. And then your confidence goes whoop.
One more question. I don't want to guess where your answer is going to go, so I'm just going to go ahead and ask the question. I heard about this book, didn't buy it yet, so I don't have all the insights of the book yet, by David Epstein, called Range, right?
Okay.
So it's a book that talks about how the world is now, and if it recommends you to be either a specialist, to specialize in one field, or to be more general, acquire different skills from different fields, and then it's more like a safe bet, right? You're more versatile, you can do more things.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? A specialist or someone that's more general with overall skills? Because obviously someone that wants to work in your field, the only way to do it is to be a specialist, right?
Yes. I don't know. I don't think I have a good answer for you, to be honest with you. I could come up with an obvious answer, but I don't think I really would be saying it truthfully.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
So that's a very tough question. It could fill a book, obviously did.
Yeah, it did. I still have to read it though. Probably if I would have read it, I could have formulated a better question. But it's just since it's, I have to wait 2 weeks for it to get here, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it beforehand.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you're at least thinking about it and formulating your picture of it, and you'll be better prepared to read it, I think.
Yeah. Let me ask the final 1 or 2 questions before we round off.
Yeah.
For the field that you work in specifically, right? Let's say working at NASA. Are there many applicants every year, or is it a job that not many people apply at all?
There are surprisingly few applicants. That's because our team is so large and needs all ranges of people. There are people way above me, principal engineers or principal investigators that decide I am going to have this mission do this, super high level stuff, all the way down to a technician who has to solder the boards to make them work. And you don't need a whole lot of training for that. I mean, you need training, but specific training, but not a lot of formal education. Got to be good with your hands, got to have all the right courses. So yeah, we take all types.
So let's say other people from Aruba could reach the possibility of working at NASA without having to reach a PhD, for example.
That's right. Oh, absolutely. There are not a whole lot of PhDs in my group.
All right.
There are a couple of them, and yeah, we're by far not all PhDs.
Why is it that you think that not many Arubans then ever tried either applying at NASA or working at NASA? Is it because maybe the field of study in general isn't really promoted here, or do you think it's something else?
Maybe it's awareness. Yeah, but and a lot of kids I've met this week that want to work for NASA, but at the same time, I'm also telling them, don't let that be your only goal now. Your goal should be to prepare yourself to be an engineer or a scientist in general. Where you work, I mean, who knows? You might start someplace and go to NASA, and the opposite.
Yeah.
It's a great goal to have, but don't set yourself too small. You know, there's a big world of engineering and science out there, and you could be working on the oceans. Who knows? And we may not, and work for NOAA, you know, and not NASA. So I think educating yourself and working hard are good things that you don't have to worry about the 10,000 step up there. Just worry about the next few steps today and tomorrow.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
So before we close off, even after this wonderful tip that you just gave, if there's any closing message that you would like to give to the youth in the Aruban community and everyone else that's watching, stage is yours.
Well, thanks. And you know, I've met with a lot of kids and people this week already, and it has helped me. And they've asked me all kinds of great questions. And it's helped me think a lot. And I want to say that a theme I've repeated is, I don't admire achievement. I don't admire intelligence. I don't admire, I admire perseverance. Because perseverance is something that you prove every day you wake up. That's more difficult than relying on talent. So what, your talent is a big deal. I'm not impressed. No, what impresses me is perseverance, hard work. Because again, that's something you decide every day to do. So I think it can be boring, but hard work is the key.
No, I like it, and I respect it, and it's a great tip. I thank you for presenting that tip. I'll definitely apply it, and it's something that I think over and over again. You get so many kids and students that from a young age, they could probably study or read the things for the test, the pages for the test the night before and score an A. And a lot of those people don't even make it far because they just don't have perseverance, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But they had the talent from a young age that if they would have exploited it, maybe they would have gone much further.
Yep. Exactly.
Edward, Mr. Cheung, I would like to thank you for being on the show. Especially you said it's your first show during this vacation, right, here in Aruba. Thank you very much for being exclusively on my show. People, I won't, like I said, give this episode a number because it's probably not going to be in the official lineup once we release it. It's probably going to be a special edition one right before we launch. So whenever it is that you're going to be viewing this, I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know how often Mr. Cheung comes to Aruba, when the next time is going to be, but probably the next time he comes here, he's always going to be open to questions, so feel free to reach him on his social media pages. And thanks for tuning in.